She fixed a Korean Mafia boss flat tire on a dark road. The next morning, a Rolls-Royce stopped outside her house. The rain was coming down in sheets when Holly Banks saw the black Bentley pulled over on the shoulder of the 110 freeway, hazards flashing like a distress signal. It was 2:47 a.m., and she was exhausted from a double shift at the diner, her feet screaming in her worn sneakers, tips from the night barely covering gas money. Every rational part of her brain said, "Keep driving." This was LA. Nothing good happened on dark freeways at 3 a.m., but Holly had been raised by a grandmother who believed in helping people. Consequences be damned. And something about the way the driver stood in the rain, staring at his flat tire like it had personally betrayed him, made her pull over. She grabbed the ancient roadside kit from her trunk, the one her uncle had insisted she keep, and approached cautiously. The man turned, and Holly's breath caught. He was young, maybe 28, Korean, with features so sharp they could cut glass. Rain-plastered black hair to his forehead, and his designer suit was ruined. But that wasn't what made her freeze. It was the tattoo crawling up his neck, intricate, dangerous, serpentine designs that disappeared beneath his collar, the kind that marked him as someone who lived outside normal rules. His dark eyes assessed her with an intensity that sent warning signals down her spine. "You need help," Holly called out, raising her voice over the rain. He looked at her like she was an apparition. Then something shifted in his expression. Surprise, maybe, or disbelief. "You're stopping to help me?" His English was perfect, barely accented, voice deep and smooth like expensive whiskey. "Looks like you need it," Holly gestured to the flat tire. "You call roadside assistance?" "My phone died." He said it like admitting a personal failure. "And I don't know how to change a tire." Holly blinked. This man who looked like he could buy and sell entire city blocks, who wore a suit that probably cost more than her car, who had danger written in ink across his skin, didn't know how to change a tire. Despite everything, she laughed. "Seriously? I've had people for that." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "Until tonight, apparently." "Well, tonight you've got me." Holly popped open his trunk, found the spare pristine, probably never touched, and got to work. The rain soaked through her uniform, her hair plastering to her face, but she'd done this 100 times. Her uncle had made sure all his nieces knew how to handle car trouble. "I'm Holly, by the way. Park Woo-jin." He crouched beside her, watching intently as she positioned the jack. "What are you doing out here this late?" "Getting off work. Double shift at Rosie's Diner in Inglewood." Holly grunted as she loosened the lug nuts. "You?" "Business meeting ran late." Something dark flickered across his face. "Very late." Holly didn't ask what kind of business happened at 3 a.m. Didn't want to know. She just focused on the tire, the familiar rhythm of the work, trying not to notice how Woo Jin watched her every movement like he was memorizing something sacred. When she finally tightened the last lug nut and lowered the car, she was drenched and exhausted, but oddly satisfied. "There, should get you home safe." Holly stood, wiping her hands on her already ruined uniform. "Get it properly fixed tomorrow." Woo Jin rose too, and Holly realized he was tall, 6'2" at least, and the way he moved was predatory, controlled. "How much do I owe you?" "Nothing. Just pay it forward." Holly headed back to her car. "Wait." His hand caught her arm, gentle, but she felt the strength behind it. "Your name. Your full name. Where you work. I need to repay this debt." "It's not a debt. It's just helping someone out." But something in his eyes made her answer. "Holly Banks, Rosie's Diner on Crenshaw. But really, you don't—" "I always repay my debts, Holly Banks." The way he said her name felt like a promise and a threat. "Always." Holly drove away with her heart pounding, watching him disappear in her rearview mirror. She told herself it was just adrenaline, just the weirdness of the situation. But deep down, she knew she'd just stepped into something that would change everything. The next morning, Holly woke to pounding on her apartment door. She stumbled out of bed in her sleep shirt and shorts, checking the peephole. Her neighbor, Mrs. Chen, stood there looking agitated, gesturing wildly toward the street. "Holly, there's a situation outside. Very expensive situation." Still half asleep, Holly opened the door. "What are you talking about?" "The Rolls-Royce, parked in front of your building, with the driver who won't leave until he speaks to you." Mrs. Chen's eyes were wide with curiosity and concern. "Child, what have you gotten yourself into?" Holly's stomach dropped. She threw on jeans and a hoodie, then went downstairs. Sure enough, parked on the street in front of her modest apartment building in a neighborhood where cars went on blocks and stray dogs outnumbered trees, sat a gleaming black Rolls-Royce Phantom. People were gathering, phones out, probably live streaming to social media. A man in a black suit and sunglasses stood beside the car, not Woo Jin, but clearly his employee. Korean, built like he bench-pressed cars for fun, with an earpiece and the kind of alertness that screamed professional security. "Miss Holly Banks?" He had a slight accent, voice respectful but firm. "That's me. Look, if this is about last night, I already said Mr. Park sent me to deliver his gratitude." The man opened the back door of the Rolls-Royce, revealing the interior packed with gift boxes. Designer labels Holly recognized from magazines: Chanel, Gucci, Louis Vuitton. He also wishes to extend an invitation to dinner tonight, 7 p.m. He'll send a car. Holly's mouth fell open. "I can't accept this, any of this. Take it back." "Mr. Park insists. He said you helped him when no one else would. He wishes to thank you properly." "I changed a tire. That's not worth—" Holly gestured helplessly at the Rolls-Royce full of boxes that probably cost more than she made in a year. "All this? To Mr. Park it is." The security guard's expression softened slightly. "He's not a man who forgets kindness. Please, accept the gifts and the dinner invitation. It would honor him." By now, half the neighborhood was watching. Holly's best friend Jasmine pushed through the crowd, took one look at the situation, and grabbed Holly's arm. "Girl, we need to talk. Right now." "Miss Banks?" the security guard prompted. "I'll think about dinner, but I can't take all this. Maybe just—" Holly scanned the boxes, feeling overwhelmed. "Maybe just one thing, so he doesn't feel disrespected." The guard nodded approvingly. "Very wise. May I suggest?" He reached in and pulled out a medium-sized box. "Mr. Park personally selected this one for you." Holly took it, feeling the weight of the neighborhood's eyes on her. "Tell Mr. Park thank you. That's very generous. And dinner? I'll let you know." Holly clutched the box and let Jasmine drag her back inside, while the crowd erupted in speculation. "Okay, spill everything, now." Jasmine paced Holly's tiny living room, while Holly sat on the couch staring at the unopened box. "Who is Mr. Park and why is he sending Rolls-Royces to the hood?" Holly explained about the flat tire, the rain, the man with the neck tattoo who'd looked at her like she was performing a miracle instead of basic car maintenance. "Neck tattoo?" Jasmine stopped pacing. "Holly, was it like serpent designs, dragons, super detailed?" "Yeah, why?" "Because I know who that is." Jasmine pulled out her phone, scrolling frantically. "My cousin works security downtown. He warned me about the new players in Koreatown. There." She turned the phone around. Holly found herself looking at a grainy surveillance photo. Park Woo-jin in a different suit, same intense expression, walking into what looked like a nightclub. The headline above it, "Rising Power in LA's Korean Organized Crime. Park Woo-jin takes control of family operations." "He's Mafia," Jasmine said bluntly. "Like actual Korean mob. His family runs half the illegal operations in Koreatown and some of downtown. And you changed his tire?" Holly felt her world tilt. "I didn't know. I just saw someone who needed help." "That's because you have a hero complex and no sense of self-preservation." Jasmine sat beside her. "Holly, this is serious. These aren't people you want to owe you favors or be indebted to. He said he always repays his debts." "Exactly, which means you're on his radar now. And trust me, that's not where you want to be." Jasmine pointed at the box. "Open it. Let's see what a mafia boss considers an appropriate thank you gift." Holly opened the box with trembling hands. Inside, nestled in tissue paper, was a leather jacket. But not just any jacket, buttery soft, perfectly tailored, with subtle details that scream quality. And underneath it, a handwritten note in elegant script. "For the woman who stopped in the rain. Your uniform was ruined helping me. This is small repayment. Dinner tonight would honor me greatly. I promise you're safe. P.W." "He noticed your uniform got ruined," Holly whispered. "In all that, he noticed. Because he's observant. It's how people like him stay alive." But Jasmine's expression softened. "That's actually kind of thoughtful, in a terrifying mob boss kind of way. Holly ran her fingers over the leather. It was beautiful. More than beautiful, it was perfect. Like he'd somehow known exactly her style, her size, her taste. I can't go to dinner with him. Can you afford not to? Jasmine said carefully. Holly, if you reject him completely, that could be seen as an insult. And insulting men like Park Woo-jin? That's how people end up in bad situations. So what? I just go. Have dinner with a criminal? You have dinner with a man who wants to thank you for helping him. In public, where it's safe. Jasmine squeezed her hand. One dinner. Be polite. Accept his thanks. Then you're done. Debt repaid. Everyone moves on with their lives. It made sense. One dinner. Public place. Then this weird, surreal situation would be over. Holly could go back to her normal life. The diner, her tiny apartment, her simple existence. Okay, one dinner, but you're on standby with 911 ready to dial. Obviously, and girl, Jasmine gestured to the jacket. Wear that. If you're having dinner with a mob boss, at least look good doing it. At exactly 7 p.m., a different car arrived. A black Mercedes S-Class, driven by the same security guard from that morning. Holly had spent an embarrassing amount of time getting ready, the leather jacket fitting like it had been made for her body specifically. She'd paired it with a simple black dress, her natural hair in twist-out curls that framed her face, minimal makeup that highlighted her features. The drive took them to Beverly Hills, to a restaurant so exclusive Holly had only seen it in celebrity Instagram posts. The kind of place where reservations took months and the cheapest entree cost more than her weekly paycheck. The security guard opened her door, and Holly stepped out onto actual red carpet. Miss Banks. A hostess materialized, elegant in a black sheath dress. Mr. Park is waiting. This way, please. They walked through the main dining room, crystal chandeliers, hushed conversations, the clink of silverware on expensive china, and out to a private terrace. String lights hung overhead, creating a canopy of stars above a single table set for two. And standing beside it, looking devastating in a black suit that emphasized his lean, powerful frame, was Park Woo-jin. The neck tattoo was visible tonight, serpentine patterns that crawled up from his collar, disappearing into his hairline. In the soft lighting, Holly could see the details. Scales, waves, Korean characters woven through the design. It should have been intimidating. Instead, it was mesmerizing. Holly Banks, he said her name like a prayer. You came. You sent a very persuasive invitation. Holly tried to keep her voice steady. And a very generous gift. Thank you for the jacket. It looks better than I imagined. His eyes traveled over her. Appreciation clear but respectful. Please sit. Woo-jin pulled out her chair. Actual gentleman behavior from a man who probably ordered executions over breakfast. Holly sat, hyper-aware of his proximity as he settled across from her. Up close, she could see he was younger than she'd thought. Maybe 28, with eyes that held decades of experience. I want to apologize for this morning, he said. The display. It was too much. I didn't consider how it would look in your neighborhood. It definitely got people talking. Holly managed a small smile. Mrs. Chen thinks I'm either a secret heiress or involved in something illegal. Both are incorrect. Woo-jin poured wine, something red and probably worth more than her car. You're simply someone who helped a stranger, and I wanted to express gratitude. With a Rolls Royce full of designer gifts? I don't know how to do things small. A hint of a smile touched his lips. My father used to say it was my biggest flaw. That and my temper. The waiter appeared with the first course, something artistic and tiny on a huge plate. Holly had no idea what it was. Woo-jin must have seen her hesitation because he leaned forward and said quietly, I ordered a tasting menu. Each course is small. If you hate something, we skip it. And there's Korean food coming too. Real food, not this pretentious art. Holly laughed despite herself. You don't like fancy food? I like food that tastes like food, not concepts. He picked up his fork. But places like this are useful, private, secure, no one listening to conversations. Are you worried about people listening? His expression shifted, becoming guarded. Always. It's necessary in my line of work, which is import-export, family business. The lie was smooth, practiced. But then he stopped. set down his fork and looked at her directly. Actually, no. You helped me. You deserve honesty. I run my family's operations. We're involved in activities that exist outside the law, what you might call organized crime. The blunt confession hung between them. Holly set down her wineglass carefully. Why tell me that? Because you'll find out anyway. And because I won't insult your intelligence by lying when you showed me kindness. His dark eyes held hers. I want you to understand what you stepped into last night, who you helped, so you can make an informed decision about whether to continue this dinner or leave right now. I'll have you driven home either way, with my gratitude and my promise that you'll never be bothered again. Holly should have stood up, should have thanked him politely and left. Instead, she found herself asking, if you're so dangerous, why didn't you have guards with you last night? I did. 2 cars ahead, 2 behind. They handle external threats. They don't change tires. Woojin's smile was self-deprecating. I'm powerful, Holly, but I grew up privileged. There are basic skills I never learned because I always had people to handle them. Last night, when my phone died and my people got delayed by an accident on the 405, I was helpless. And then you appeared. Like an angel in a stained uniform? Exactly like that. His expression grew serious. Do you know how rare that is? Someone stopping to help a stranger at 3 a.m., not calling a service, not driving past, but actually getting out in the rain and doing the work yourself? My grandmother always said, do unto others. She raised you well. Wu Jin paused as another course arrived, this one actually recognizable as seared tuna. My father would have liked you. Would have. He died 3 years ago. Heart attack, though the stress of his lifestyle certainly contributed. Pain flickered across Wu Jin's features. I took over when I was 25. Youngest boss in our organization's history. Some people didn't think I could handle it. Did you prove them wrong? Violently. The word was simple, dark, a reminder of who she was dining with. Then he shook his head. I'm sorry. This isn't appropriate dinner conversation. You said you wanted honesty. Holly surprised herself with her boldness. So be honest. What do you want from me? Why am I really here? Woojin was quiet for a long moment, studying her face like he was memorizing every detail. Then he said, because in 28 years, I've never met someone who looked at me and saw a person who needed help instead of someone to fear or use. You didn't know who I was. You just saw someone stranded and vulnerable, and you stopped. That's extraordinary. It's really not. It is to me. He leaned forward. Holly, I'm surrounded by people who want things from me. Power, money, protection, status. Everyone has an angle. Everyone's calculating. But you risked your safety to help a stranger and asked for nothing in return. That's rare. That's valuable. That's someone I want to know. Holly's heart was racing. This is crazy. We're from completely different worlds. I know. You work at a diner in Inglewood. I run a criminal empire in Koreatown. You help people. I hurt them when necessary. You're everything good about this city, and I'm everything dangerous. His eyes held hers. But Holly, maybe that's why this makes sense. Maybe I need someone who reminds me that goodness exists. And maybe you need someone who sees your strength and values it. You don't know what I need. Then tell me. Let me get to know you. Not one dinner. Multiple dinners. Conversations. Time. He pulled something from his pocket, a phone. Brand new, top of the line. My number's programmed in. Call me. Text me. If you want nothing to do with me, block me and I'll respect that. But if you're even slightly curious about where this could go, reach out, please. Holly took the phone with trembling hands. Why are you doing this? Because for the first time in 3 years, I met someone who made me feel human instead of monstrous. His voice dropped. Because you stopped in the rain. Because you're beautiful and kind and strong. Because I can't stop thinking about you. And because I want to see if maybe, just maybe, someone like you could see something worth saving in someone like me. The raw vulnerability in his words took Holly's breath away. This dangerous man, this crime boss with blood on his hands and power in his veins, was asking her, a waitress from Inglewood with well on $200 in her bank account, to give him a chance. One more dinner, Holly heard herself say. Let's see what happens. Woojin's smile was blinding. One more dinner. I'll make it perfect. The second dinner was at a hole-in-the-wall Korean restaurant in K-Town, the kind with plastic chairs and handwritten menus where ajumas ruled the kitchen with iron fists. Woo Jin showed up in jeans and a simple black t-shirt that showed the full extent of his neck tattoo and hinted at more ink beneath the fabric. "This is more my style," he said as they settled into a booth. "Real food, real conversations, no pretense." They ordered too much: bulgogi, japchae, kimchi jjigae, soju, banchan covering every surface, and they talked. Holly learned that Woo Jin had studied business at USC before his father's death pulled him into the family operations. That he spoke 4 languages: Korean, English, Mandarin, and Japanese. That he hated mornings, loved old kung fu movies, and had a rescue dog named Bulgogi because the puppy had stolen his dinner the night he found him. "You have a dog?" Holly couldn't help but smile. A crime boss with a rescue dog? Even criminals can love animals. But his eyes were warm. "Gogi's at home, probably destroying my couch right now. He has separation anxiety. The vet says it's because he was abandoned." "That's actually sweet, in a weird way. Come meet him, after dinner." The invitation was casual, but Holly felt its weight. Going to his home meant crossing another line, from public dinners to private spaces, from curiosity to something more intentional. "I don't know if that's a good idea. I have a state-of-the-art security system and 15 people who know exactly where you are. Plus Gogi, who's a terrible guard dog, but excellent at judging character. If he likes you, you're safe." Woo Jin's smile was slight. "I'm asking you to meet my dog, Holly, not proposing marriage." "Fine, but just to meet the dog." "Just the dog," he agreed, but something in his eyes suggested he was hoping for more. Woo Jin's house was in the Hollywood Hills, gated and gorgeous, with views that stretched across the city. Modern architecture, floor-to-ceiling windows, the kind of place Holly had only seen in architectural magazines. But what caught her attention was the moment they walked in and a golden retriever puppy came barreling toward them, all paws and excitement and wagging tail. "Gogi, manners!" Woo Jin tried to sound stern but failed miserably as the puppy jumped on him, then immediately transferred his attention to Holly, sniffing enthusiastically. "Oh my God, he's adorable." Holly crouched down, letting Gogi lick her face with abandon. "You're just a baby. Yes, you are." Woo Jin watched them with an expression Holly couldn't quite read, soft, almost awed. "He likes you. He usually hides from strangers." "That's because I'm not a stranger. I'm his new best friend." Holly laughed as Gogi flopped onto his back for belly rubs. "Aren't I, buddy?" They spent the next hour on Woo Jin's living room floor, playing with Gogi, drinking wine, talking about everything and nothing. Holly learned that Woo Jin's mother had died when he was 12, that his father had been distant but respected, that he had no siblings, and sometimes the loneliness of his position threatened to consume him. "I'm surrounded by people all day," he said quietly, watching Gogi chew on a rope toy. "Soldiers, advisors, business associates. But it's all transactional, all based on power and fear. No one sees me. They see the boss, the position, the threat." "Is that why you told me the truth so quickly?" Holly asked. "Because you wanted someone to know the real you?" "Maybe." He turned to look at her, and the intensity in his eyes made her breath catch. "Or maybe I just knew that lying to you would be a waste, that someone who stops in the rain to help a stranger isn't someone who scares easily." "I'm terrified right now," Holly admitted. "Terrified of what this is, what it could become, how different our lives are." "So am I." Woo Jin moved closer, his hand reaching out to tuck a curl behind her ear. "I'm terrified that you'll realize how dangerous knowing me is and run, or that I'll somehow ruin this before it really starts, or that I'm already falling for you and there's no way to stop it." "Woo Jin, I know it's too soon. I know we barely know each other. But Holly, I can't stop thinking about you. Can't stop wanting to know everything. What makes you laugh? What makes you angry? What you dream about at 3 a.m. when you can't sleep? I want all of it." Holly should have pulled away, should have said this was moving too fast. Instead, she found herself leaning in, closing the distance between them. Their lips met softly, tentatively, a question and an answer all at once. Woo Jin's hand came up to cup her face, thumb brushing across her cheekbone with devastating gentleness. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Gogi had climbed into Holly's lap and fallen asleep. The moment was absurd and perfect and terrifying. Stay, Wu Jin whispered. Not for anything physical, just stay. Sleep in the guest room. Let me make you breakfast in the morning. Let's see what normal feels like. You want normal? I want you, whatever that looks like. His eyes held hers. But I'll take whatever you're willing to give, even if it's just one more night of feeling like a person instead of a position. Holly stayed, and in the morning she woke to the smell of pancakes and the sound of Wu Jin singing off-key in Korean while Gogi barked along. It was domestic and strange and wonderful and terrifying because Holly realized she was falling for him too. The next 3 weeks blurred together in a haze of secret dates and growing intimacy. Wu Jin took her to hidden restaurants where they could talk for hours, introduced her to his world through art galleries and concerts and late-night drives through the city. And slowly, Holly began to see past the tattoos and their reputation to the man underneath. He was complicated, capable of extreme violence, but also extreme gentleness. He ran his organization with cold precision but cried while watching sad movies. He commanded respect through fear, but treated service workers with careful courtesy. And with Holly, he was vulnerable in ways she suspected he'd never been with anyone else. My father used to say emotion is weakness, he told her one night as they lay on his rooftop, looking at stars barely visible through LA's light pollution. That to lead you must be feared, never loved, never soft. I built my reputation on that philosophy, became exactly what he wanted, ruthless, efficient, untouchable. But, Holly prompted, her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. But I'm so fucking tired of being untouchable. His arms tightened around her. I'm tired of being alone. Tired of every relationship being transactional. Tired of wondering if I'm becoming the kind of monster who doesn't deserve happiness. You're not a monster. I've killed people, Holly. Ordered executions. Destroyed lives. Made decisions that haunt me every time I close my eyes. His voice was raw. How is that not monstrous? Holly was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, my grandmother used to say that monsters don't question whether they're monsters. The fact that you're afraid of becoming one means you haven't. Not yet. Not completely. Your grandmother sounds wise. She was. Raised me after my parents died in a car accident when I was 8. Worked 3 jobs to put me through school. Taught me to be strong, to help people, to see the good even in darkness. Holly's voice caught. She died 2 years ago. Sometimes I still reach for my phone to call her. I do the same with my father, even though our relationship was complicated. Wu Jin's hand found hers in the darkness. We're both orphans, aren't we? Trying to honor people who aren't here anymore while figuring out who we want to be? Yeah, I guess we are. They stayed like that for hours, wrapped in each other, finding comfort in shared grief and the tentative hope that maybe they could build something new together. But reality crashed back in violently 3 days later. Holly was closing at the diner, her first shift in weeks, having cut back her hours as things with Wu Jin intensified when 3 men walked in. Korean, wearing expensive suits, with the kind of cold eyes that set off every alarm bell in her head. Holly Banks? The leader's English was accented, precise. We need to talk about Park Wu Jin. Fear spiked through her. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't insult us. You've been seen with him. Multiple times. We know you're close. He slid into a booth, his companions flanking the exits. Sit. This won't take long. Holly's co-worker, Marcus, had disappeared into the kitchen. Smart. This wasn't his fight. Holly sat across from the man, hands clasped to hide their trembling. What do you want? Information about Park's operations, his movements, his vulnerabilities. The man smiled, and it was worse than any threat. You're close to him. You see things, hear things. We're willing to pay very well for those observations. I'm not spying on him. No, consider it then. Because being close to Park Wu Jin is dangerous, Miss Banks. People in your position often end up collateral damage. But if you help us, we can protect you. Keep you safe when things inevitably fall apart. I don't need protection from him. Don't you? He's a criminal, Miss Banks. A violent, dangerous man who's used you from the start. The man leaned forward. The flat tire? That was staged. He knew you'd stop. Knew exactly how to play you. This whole romance is manipulation to gain something he wants. Holly's stomach twisted. You're lying. Am I? Ask yourself, why would someone like him be interested in someone like you? What do you have that he could possibly want except access to places he normally can't go? A black woman working in Inglewood creates perfect cover. No one suspects the poor waitress of being connected to organized crime. The words hit like physical blows. Every insecurity Holly had been suppressing came roaring back. She was nobody, nothing. Why would someone like Woo Jin want her except to use her? For 3 days, Holly avoided Woo Jin's calls and texts. She went to work, went home, locked her doors, and tried to convince herself that walking away was the smart choice. That men like him didn't really fall for women like her. That she was saving herself from inevitable heartbreak or worse. On the 4th day, Woo Jin showed up at her apartment. Holly opened the door to find him looking wrecked, hair disheveled, circles under his eyes, the careful control he always maintained completely shattered. "What did I do?" His voice was rough. "Tell me what I did wrong so I can fix it." "Nothing. You didn't do anything." Holly couldn't meet his eyes. I think we moved too fast. This isn't going to work." "Bullshit." Woo Jin pushed past her into the apartment, not aggressive, but desperate. "Something happened. Tell me what happened." "Nothing happened. I just realized how different we are. How impossible this is. You're you, and You're what? Not good enough? Not worthy?" Anger flashed across his face. "Who told you that? Who got to you?" "No one got to me. I'm being realistic." "You're lying, and you're bad at it." He moved closer and Holly backed up until she hit the wall. "Holly, please, talk to me. Whatever happened, whatever someone said, we can handle it together. They said the flat tire was staged." The words burst out. "That you manipulated me from the start. That I'm just cover for you. A useful tool." Woo Jin went completely still. Then quietly, "Who said this?" "It doesn't matter. It matters to me." "Who threatened you?" Each word was measured, dangerous. "Tell me right now, Holly, or I tear this city apart finding out." "3 men, Korean, at the diner. They wanted me to spy on you." "Fuck." Woo Jin pulled out his phone, typing rapidly. "Description. Everything you remember." Holly described them, watched as Woo Jin's expression grew darker with each detail. When she finished, he made a call. Rapid Korean, his voice cold and commanding. Then he hung up and turned back to her. "The Choi organization. My father's old rivals. They've been trying to undermine me for years." His hands clenched into fists. "And they came after you. Threatened you. Made you doubt everything we have." "Was it real?" Holly whispered. "The flat tire? Or did you plan it?" "Holly." Woo Jin crossed to her, taking her face in his hands. "Look at me. The flat tire was real. A piece of road debris I didn't see until too late. My guards getting delayed was bad luck in LA traffic. You stopping was a miracle I didn't deserve. Everything since then, every dinner, every conversation, every moment has been real. The realest thing in my life. How do I know you're not just a really good liar? Because I'm going to prove it." He pulled out his phone again, pulled up files. "These are my calendar entries from that night. Meeting locations, times, routes. None of them go through that section of freeway. I was taking a shortcut home because I was tired and not thinking. Here's the receipt from the tire shop the next day. Here's the incident report my security filed about the delay." Holly looked through everything, her hands shaking. It all checked out. Every detail. They said what they needed to say to make you doubt me, to isolate you, to turn you into an asset they could use. His thumb brushed across her cheek. "Holly, I'm a lot of terrible things, but I'm not using you. I'm falling in love with you. Catastrophically, inconveniently, completely." "You love me?" Her voice cracked. "I'm terrified of how much." His forehead pressed against hers. "You stop to help a stranger in the rain. You see good in people who don't deserve it. You make me want to be better than I am. You're everything I didn't know I needed. So yes, Holly Banks, I love you. Desperately. And if you'll let me, I'll spend every day proving it." Holly's walls crumbled. "I love you too. And it scares the hell out of me." "Good, we can be terrified together." He kissed her then, deep and desperate and full of everything they'd been holding back. When they broke apart, his expression turned serious. "But Holly, you need to understand. They came after you. That means you're a target now. I need to keep you safe." "How?" "Move in with me. Let me upgrade your security. Let my people protect you. That's asking me to give up my independence, my life. I'm asking you to let me keep you alive." His voice was raw. "Please, Holly, I can't lose you. Not when I just found you." Holly thought about her tiny apartment, her simple life, the independence she'd fought so hard to maintain. Then she thought about Woo Jin's eyes, Gogi's wagging tail, the feeling of being seen and valued and loved completely. "Okay, but I keep my job, my friends, my life. I'm not becoming some kept woman who disappears into your world. I don't want you to disappear. I want you exactly as you are." He pulled her close. "We'll figure it out. Together." Moving in with Woo Jin was surreal. Holly kept waiting for reality to reassert itself, for him to show his true colors, for this fairy tale to crumble. Instead, they fell into a rhythm. She worked at the diner now with discreet security that Woo Jin insisted on. He ran his empire with ruthless efficiency. And at night, they came home to each other in Gogi, and something that felt shockingly like domestic bliss. But the Choi organization didn't give up. Small provocations escalated. Threats, near misses, attacks on Woo Jin's operations. And Holly watched the man she loved become harder, colder, more dangerous as he fought to protect what was his. "I'm ending this," he told her one night after a particularly close call where one of his men ended up in the hospital. "I'm going to make them understand that coming after you, after us, was their last mistake." "How?" Holly asked, even though part of her didn't want to know. "However, I have to." His eyes were dark. "Holly, I need you to trust me, to know that everything I do to build a life where we can be together without constantly looking over our shoulders. I trust you. I just don't want to lose you." "You won't, I promise." He pulled her close. "This ends. And then we build something real, something lasting. Deal?" "Deal." The war was brief and brutal. Holly didn't see most of it, but she saw the aftermath. Woo Jin coming home with blood on his clothes, exhaustion in his eyes, and grim satisfaction in his expression. She asked no questions, just ran baths, held him while he slept, and pretended not to notice when he woke screaming from nightmares. And then it was over. The Choi organization surrendered, their leadership decimated, their operations absorbed into Woo Jin's empire. Peace returned to Koreatown, and Woo Jin, for the first time since Holly had known him, seemed to breathe freely. "It's done," he said one morning over breakfast, Gogi begging shamelessly for scraps. "We're safe. You're safe." "What now?" Holly asked. "Now we live." His smile was genuine, unguarded. "We build the life we talked about, the one without fear, without constantly watching the shadows. Is that possible? In your world?" "I'm making it possible. Transitioning more operations to legitimate businesses, using the power I have to create something sustainable, something I can be proud of." He reached across the table, taking her hand. "Something worthy of you. I didn't fall in love with you because of what you could become. I fell in love with who you are. A criminal with blood on his hands and a neck tattoo? A man who rescued a puppy, who cries during movies, who looks at me like I'm the most important thing in his world, who's trying to be better every day." Holly squeezed his fingers. "That's who I love." Woo Jin stood, pulling her up with him, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Marry me." "What?" "Marry me. Make this official. Build a life with me that's real and permanent and everything I never thought I could have." His eyes held hers. "I know it's fast. I know we've only known each other 4 months. But Holly, I've never been more sure of anything. Say yes." Holly's heart was racing. This was insane. Impossible. Everything she'd never imagined wanting. And yet, looking into Woo Jin's eyes, feeling the strength of his arms around her, remembering the night she'd stopped in the rain for a stranger, she'd never been more certain of anything either. "Yes," she whispered. "You absolute maniac." Yes. They married 6 months later in a private ceremony that blended Korean and African-American traditions. Holly's friends from the diner sat beside Woo Jin's most trusted associates. Mrs. Chen cried through the entire ceremony. Gogi served as ring bearer and nearly ate the rings. It was chaotic and perfect, and absolutely them. "I never thought I'd have this," Woo Jin said during their first dance, holding Holly close. "Family. Real family. Someone who chose me knowing everything. I never thought I'd end up married to a man I met while changing his tire." Holly laughed. "Life is weird." It's perfect. He kissed her forehead. You're perfect. I'm really not. I'm stubborn and independent, and I'll probably drive you crazy. I'm counting on it. His smile was blinding. Drive me crazy, Holly Park, for the rest of our lives. 2 years later, Holly stood in the living room of their home, not the Hollywood Hills house, but something they'd bought together in View Park, with a yard for Gogi and guest rooms for the family they planned to build, and marveled at how far they'd come. Woo Jin had been true to his word. His operations were almost entirely legitimate now. He'd become a respected businessman, using his resources to invest in community programs and Korean-American cultural initiatives. The transition hadn't been easy or clean, but he'd done it. Become someone his father might not recognize, but Holly was endlessly proud of. And Holly had grown too. She'd gone back to school part-time, was working toward her business degree, still worked at the diner 3 days a week because she loved it, but now had options, had freedom, had a partner who supported every dream she dared to have. What are you thinking about? Woo Jin asked, coming up behind her and wrapping his arms around her waist. His hands settled on her stomach, still flat, but not for much longer. They'd found out last week. A baby. Their baby. That night on the freeway, how everything changed because I stopped to help. Best decision I never made. He kissed her neck. Getting that flat tire. You mean the universe's way of throwing us together? Exactly that. He turned her to face him. Holly, do you have any regrets about us? About how fast everything moved? Not one single regret. She reached up to trace the tattoo on his neck, the serpent design she'd memorized in loving detail. You? Only that I didn't get that flat tire sooner. His smile was soft. That we didn't have more time together. Though I plan to make up for it by annoying you for the next 60 years. 60? That's all I get? Fine, 70. But that's my final offer. Holly laughed, the sound full and free. Deal. 70 years of crazy, impossible, absolutely perfect life together. They kissed as Gogi barked from the yard, demanding attention. And Holly thought about the girl she'd been working double shifts, driving home exhausted, stopping for a stranger in the rain. That girl had no idea that one decision, one moment of kindness would lead here. To love, to family, to a life she never could have imagined. Thank you, Woo Jin whispered against her lips, for stopping, for taking a chance, for seeing past everything I was to everything I could be. Thank you for getting a flat tire, Holly whispered back, for being honest, for loving me with everything you have. Always. His hand found hers, their fingers interlacing, for as long as I breathe. And outside, the city hummed with life, millions of stories unfolding, millions of chance encounters that would shape lives in ways no one could predict. But for Holly and Woo Jin, their story had begun with rain and a flat tire and one woman's decision to stop and help. And it would continue with a baby on the way, a rescue dog named after Korean barbecue, and a love that had survived impossibility to become the realest thing in both their lives. The Rolls Royce that had shown up at Holly's apartment that first morning sat in their garage now, next to her practical Honda. A reminder of where they'd started, of the gesture that had seemed too grand, too impossible, too much. But nothing was too much when it came to showing someone they mattered, that they were seen. That one act of kindness had changed everything. Come on, Woo Jin said, pulling her toward the door. Let's take Gogi for a walk. Enjoy the evening. In the neighborhood where a Rolls Royce caused a scene? In the neighborhood where I found my future. He kissed her hand, where everything began. They walked out together into the golden Los Angeles evening, ready for whatever came next. Because they'd learned that life was unpredictable, that love came from unexpected places, that sometimes stopping to help a stranger in the rain was the beginning of everything. And that family wasn't just about blood, it was about choice, about showing up, about building something beautiful from chance encounters and brave decisions. The flat tire had been fate, the Rolls Royce had been gratitude, but everything after, the love, the life, the family they were building, that was choice, their choice, every single day. And as they walked hand in hand down the street where it all began, Holly Banks, now Holly Park, smiled. Because sometimes the best love stories start with the simplest acts of kindness, and sometimes the most impossible relationships become the most beautiful realities.